Thank you. Okay, let's call this meeting back to order at 7:43, September 19th, 2013. Roll call, please.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Harvey.
Here.
Director Sanger Carter.
Present.
Director Golov.
Here.
Director Patasek.
Here via conference.
Thank you. President's statement. I have a couple comments. One, I am pleased to announce that the case between MWSD and the county can be closed. We've reached an agreement for a 40-year lease. For those who are not aware of the circumstances, Paul Perkovic and I tried for 5 or 6 years prior to us taking over the water district to get the county to extend leases, because we were on a 6-month cancellation notice with the county. They could tell us to vacate our water supply within 6 months. When we took over the water district, Department of Health Services said that we had to put in some very expensive water treatment systems. We tried negotiating with the county for, I believe it was years. Dave was there, George was there, Scott was there, I was there, Tanya was there, and the county would say they'd get back to us and disappear again. Finally, we were left with no option, because the treatment for the pollutants in the airport aquifer is very expensive systems. And so we filed a eminent domain suit, and the Superior Court actually decided in our favor, and then the county decided to call in the feds, and it drug on. Government time for local districts is slow, for counties is slower, for the state is really slow, and for the federal government makes geologic time look incredibly fast, and so it's drug on. But we finally have reached a settlement. We have a 40-year lease, which is what we need to be able to fund the treatment systems that we need for those wells. So we're looking forward to moving forward with that project. The other is, I happened to go to the Highway 1 brewery. This is not a plug, but and I ran into an ex-employee there, and it was interesting to talk to somebody who is a recent ex-employee. He had no reason to be positive, and yet all he had to say were very, very positive things about the staff at this district, his learning experience at this district, the people he worked with in the district itself. He actually said he missed us. He went to a major water district in the South Bay, and he did something that he would have normally done here, which is he found a problem, diagnosed it, and fixed it. Well, he got in all kinds of trouble, because he had not only found the problem and diagnosed it, but he hadn't called in the right department to fix it. And he said that this district provides a learning experience better than any other he has worked with, because our water guys, as I call them, our water crew, has to deal with so many different problems. They get highly skilled in a lot of different areas. But I wanted to pass on his compliments to the crew and to the community. And he did mention Clemens in particular, and said Clemens was just the only manager he knows who has the ability to not only make policy decisions, but he knows which end of the shovel to point towards the ground and step on. And he was very complimentary. So moving on, oral comments. I see one from Bill Kehoe.
Well, congratulations on your 10-year battle with the county.
Thank you.
I hope you got a good deal for that less than pleasant water. I thought about this a lot since your last meeting, and decided I would bring this up because I thought one of the board members at the last meeting was way out of line in mentioning previous auditor that you had, and his personal opinion was that he did a lousy job, and he mentioned it by name. And I wanted you to ask your lawyer, Mr. Schickner, that what kind of liability does that put the water company in, and therefore the ratepayers in? Because when you actually throw people's names out in public like that, you can damage their business. It's something you shouldn't do lightly and make accusations without real data when it comes down to being something along the lines of one person's art being different than another person's art. And so I found it to be quite distasteful, and I really think that there's an apology owed to him before it gets worse, and that some of the animosity that's been going on here recently has absolutely no place in a public office. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, do you have a response to that?
My response is to the board.
Yes, absolutely. I think the board needs
yeah.
advice.
Understood. The law provides a fair amount of protection for publicly elected officials with respect to open and free discourse. Extreme examples, I suppose, extreme situations possibly, a case for libel could be made, but again, the protection of for purposes of legislative decisions and relationship with business and political relationship, there's a great deal of protection for public elected officials.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing, review and possible action concerning adoption of revised master fee schedule.
So we adopted a revised master fee schedule in June, and that was, it contains actually the water and sewer related charges and fees. We actually then adjusted the sewer service charge and all other associated fees, administration fees, and so on. Due to a delayed water budget approval this year, the water service charges were not updated in June. And at the special meeting on August 29, the board approved the budget and asked staff to implement a 4% increase of the water service charges in accordance with inflationary increases occurring since the last update. And the new rates, our new rates are scheduled to be in effect on October 1. So, to be specific, the 4% increase is well within the established Prop 218 limit. And we've prepared now as an attachment the ordinance actually in a red line version. This shows the increase for the different rate components. And so we're talking about volume-based rate components and the fixed base charges for meter standby fees. And again, all of those have been increased to about 4%. That brings tier 1 from 0 to 6, from $6.80 to $7.07, for example, and brings the and so that's essentially all fees have been raised by 4%. Now, the recommendation is to open the public hearing, consider relevant public testimony, close the public hearing, and adopt the ordinance of the Montara Water and Sanitary District, restating and amending the master fee schedule.
Okay. Gentlemen. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's open the public hearing for the review and action concerning the adoption of the revised master fee schedule. And for those who are, this is our sewer service charge rates as well as other water rates and debris rates.
A number of the rates are being restated. The water rates are the ones that are.
It's exclusively, if you look at page 6 and 7, we're talking exclusively about now adjustment to the water rates. So,
Right. But mine doesn't have a red line.
well, if you see,
Oh, I see, it has
it's crossed
black
out.
lines. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not
Sorry.
in color, the red line is not in color.
We're saving money, it's
It's
keeping the
faded
budget down.
Faded black line, that's right.
Yes, yes. The charcoal version.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, we have opened the public hearing. Do we have any comment from the public? Are you sure?
From what I saw, it's just the water and fire connections. and
Okay.
It's 4%, which is in the middle of what you could have done, so
I would
I don't
note
want to complain too much.
that I believe the water district to the north is going up 7%,
But there you go.
and the water district to the south, I believe, also went up 7%. And for those who own property in Monterey or Carmel, apparently the desal plant is going to raise the water rates 40% over the next 3 years. And that's under our friends American Water, what was Citizens Utilities. 40%. So, no comments? Let's close the public hearing. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, roll call vote.
We
Oh, roll
have-
call vote, that's right, sorry.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Philon,
Aye.
Director Patasek.
Aye.
Just for the audience, I mentioned that because we have someone coming in by teleconference and it's a requirement that we do roll call vote.
Right. My mistake.
A motion to.
Do we have a motion, yeah, do we have a motion to adopt? And that would be ordinance 169.
So moved.
Second.
Scott and Jim. Roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Director Philon,
Aye.
Director Patasek.
Aye.
Okay. The master fee schedule is adopted. Moving on to the no consent agenda, old business. Item 1, review and possible action concerning approval of minutes for meetings of July 6th, July 18th, and August 1st, all 2013.
So, the item was before pulled from the consent agenda, and the board deferred this item to this meeting. In the discussion, it was requested that, so we made some changes to minutes and also noted that the changes to the minutes at the end of the minutes, and it was recommended that we simply leave it at the correction, not restating the correction at the end, and so we took that out, and so that's what we have in front of us. So minutes of June 6, July 18, and August 1, 2013.
Okay, discussion.
So I'll repeat the question I made before, which is, I appreciate the fact that I'm not paraphrased for 3 pages regarding one of the discussions, but we had a lengthy discussion about minutes at the subsequent meeting, and I don't see any record of that. So I'm wondering, how did the change occur? And my recollection of the discussion was the board was generally comfortable with very detailed minutes.
Yes.
And then the minutes come back and all that's been redacted, and with just a brief statement that there was a lengthy discussion. So my question is, do we have a policy that the board wants to follow, that we have detailed minutes? And if we do, then how did this lengthy discussion get removed? My concern, additional concern about minutes that are lengthy is to be uniform. What I'm seeing is that there are lengthy descriptions of some issues and no memorialization of others. For instance, the discussion about minutes. So I'm perfectly happy to end this conversation. I'm not going to be on the board. However you want to set this policy is certainly up to you. But I think having a policy about what you want to do with minutes is important.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think we want to have detailed minutes. I think that's appropriate. The discussion about the minutes, that was a discussion about the minutes. I guess it's not on the minutes. It's, I don't think it, it's not an oversight. It's just, we're gonna bring it up this time. So I think that, I think the minutes have been good and have been detailed. There was a discussion before about them being too detailed, but we want them, but we do want them detailed. So I think we're okay the way we are now, having detailed minutes.
Scott, do you have any comments? Bob?
No comment.
Okay. As long as I've been on the board, we have had relatively detailed minutes. They have not been verbatim. And frankly, in all the years I've been on the board, there hasn't been nearly as much discussion about minutes as we've had in the last few meetings. I think trying to keep everyone happy is a difficult job, and if you're comfortable with what these minutes reflect, I am, and I'm willing to approve them. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, the June 6th, July 18th, and August 1st minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jim, second by Scott. Roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd.
Aye.
Director Harvey.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter.
Aye.
Director Tholock.
No.
Director Potasek.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Moving on, review and possible action concerning approval of financial statements for June 2013.
So at the last minute meeting, the monthly financials were not submitted in the consent agenda. And that was due to the district's accountant informed staff that the closing of the books for June 30, 2013 had not been completed at the time. The rollover balances were not final yet. And we then plan to submit the statements with the next consent agenda. The item was pulled from the consent agenda, and it was asked that the financials be submitted at this meeting if available. And we received financial statements this week from May's Associates. So we have financials for the month of June, and the recommendation is to approve the financial statements for June 2013.
Okay, and we have Tim here to answer questions.
Yes.
Okay, and do you have a mic? Can he be heard? Oh, good. I see from the cameraman that you can be heard, so.
Wonderful.
Discussion, gentlemen. Chris.
Well, my reading is this P&L is the same as the prior one. What the delta between what we had for the budget process and this is this P&L includes depreciation.
Correct.
Right. So we had some discussion about how do we suppress depreciation. And if that had been removed, these financials would be identical to the ones that we had when we prepared the budget.
Agreed.
Okay. The other piece of this that I'm glad to see you here for is the balance sheet. We really haven't had a chance to discuss this at length because that was maybe the hardest piece of our financials that need to be reworked in this process. Could you run us through where we stand with the balance sheet now?
In any
terms of
particular respect, or?
Are we complete in terms of the conversion from, or the cleanup from the prior
Yes,
balance sheet?
we are complete. There is still a couple of adjustments that we're attempting to finalize this week that may impact this balance sheet. The audit itself, the final phase of the audit will begin on Monday. I believe 2 months ahead of what it was last year, give or take, which is a positive sign. But each and every line item on the balance sheet, be it for water or sewer, has been analyzed and fine-tuned and reconciled to supporting documents.
And just for the folks at home, I know this has been a fairly lengthy process. Could you kind of comment on that, what it took to get this straightened out?
Again, it was starting with the audited financial statements as of June 30, 2012, and then stepping in after a period of time where all the accounts weren't reconciled for a number of months, bringing them current, and then maintaining them through June 30th, or through today, quite frankly. But and a lot of it has been going to the underlying documentation, making sure that there is support for each and every amount and account within the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement.
And there were period adjustments too, as I recall.
Definitely.
Primarily in labor, it was an accrual issue.
There were accrual issues.
Also on revenue, though.
Revenue side, there was accounts receivable issues as far as what was sitting on the books as of June 30, 2012, as far as water receivables were overstated.
Okay. But you're fairly confident, other than the items that are still outstanding, that this fairly and accurately reflects?
Extremely comfortable.
Can you explain what's going on with the Wells Fargo operating reserve on the water side, where we're showing a negative $42,000 balance?
Keep in mind that the balance sheet is a snapshot in time. And this really just represents a timing issue, because if we were to look at the bank statement or the bank accounts at July 1 or the first week of July, this was essentially a timing difference. Payables were addressed up through June 30. You'll see that there's a $201,000 account payable on the water side, 200 of which was part of the airport settlement. So accounts payable were paid down, and we were essentially caught with what appears to be a bank overdraft. We didn't want to adjust in any way the board-approved reserves, the cash reserves for capital and operating. We can't touch restricted cash, but it's not as though checks were bouncing or anything of that nature. It was simply a timing issue.
And do those three line items reconcile to separate statements, or they combine to a bank?
I'm sorry, which ones?
When you're doing the reconciliation between bank statements and balance sheet,
They
Wells Fargo
combine.
Reserve, they combine.
Correct.
So they're restricted only in the sense that we know certain amounts are designated differently.
They are designated, they are not restricted.
Right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm done.
You're done, okay. Scott?
I was interested if Bob had any comment.
Bob?
No comments.
No comment.
Jim has no comment. Scott?
Congratulations on getting through this.
Thank
I know it hasn't been easy.
Well, the big success will be next week, when we can get the auditors in and out.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
No
will
offense
be,
to auditors, because I am one,
are you going to be working directly with
but
them then?
yes, I will be here all next week, if they have questions, et cetera.
Good.
Any good auditor will, you know that.
We're trying to minimize that.
No,
so.
It's fine for them to have questions, it's even
Absolutely.
better to have answers.
Well, my experience in my business with the fire department inspections is I always leave the light out in the exit sign so they can ding me on something and then leave. I don't know if it's the same, we don't tend to do that in our own county, and I'm sure we don't do that here, but I'm sure they will have
I
questions.
just wonder if you're ever gonna get that stupid light fixed.
They keep wondering, it just goes out every year.
I have a question for Tim in terms of next week. When you're in the office, what are your normal times? Because I wouldn't mind stopping by during the week and maybe talking to you about it.
Okay. I think it's gonna be a little bit more extended next week, Bob,
Okay?
meaning that, I'm trying to get down here by 9 a.m.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly the afternoon.
Oh, okay, perfect.
It's where my mornings, because I have to deal with the East Coast,
Gotcha.
are not possible.
Okay,
Normally, I can only get away in the afternoon.
okay. Well, if you just, shoot an email to, say,
Yeah, I'll
stay
do
put,
that.
don't leave the premises and,
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
None of that.
okay.
Do we have any questions, comments from the audience? Hearing none, seeing no yellow slips, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Moved by
I'll
Chris,
second.
second by Scott. Roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter?
Aye.
Director Zola?
Aye.
Director Patasek?
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Item 3, review and possible action concerning district strategic plan. Thank you, Tim.
So we presented the item at the last meeting. We contact a number of consulting firms that provide planning services, and got some responses from 3 potential firms. And at the last meeting, the board agreed that there should be submittals possible from board members for some potential firms. And we received a submittal from Director Tholo for the Alta Mesa Group. And so I contacted Bill Chia with Alta Mesa Group on September 13, that is, the staff report is 19, it was on 13. So the recommendation is to invite potential consultants to attend future board meetings to present their suggested approach and answer any questions the board might have. The plan was to shoot for the October 17 meeting. I think we can bring this even up at the October 3 meeting and inform the board if we receive positive responses for the availability of the October 17 meeting.
We don't have the minutes from the last board meeting, but my recollection is we had a fairly lengthy conversation about the timing for this, and that we had agreement that the board wanted to wait until after the election.
To begin the actual strategic plan process.
Begin this planning process. My understanding was that we were planning to go for an October 17 meeting at which the consultants would present themselves. The all candidates for this board would be invited, and the decision would then be made at a later meeting, was what I understood.
That's consistent with what I understood.
it's consistent with my memory.
My memory is that we agreed that we were going to wait until after the election.
For the strategic plan.
No.
Well, there are two of us who have a different memory.
Okay.
I have been asking for this for quite a while, and an election or no election, I don't see that, frankly, I don't understand your hesitancy to even select a particular strategic planner, and then wait to get going, particularly since all candidates would be involved and would be invited.
So do we have the motions from the last meeting?
I'm not quite sure, Judy. We
It
have-
was direction to staff, there was no motion.
Yes, it
No,
was
I
direction. Well, I'm not quite
No,
sure.
is that
There might
right?
have been a motion involved.
I'm
Yeah, I.
pretty
I-
sure there
I don't know.
was.
I don't, there was,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was linked.
I believe I made the
Yeah.
motion.
I don't have my notes, so. In any event, this is for information. I think you should find out if they are available, and if the motion was to stop everything until after the election, then we will do that.
Well,
But it's good to get our foundation built.
Right. Well, I did listen into the meeting to get the understanding of what, it was a fairly complex conversation.
Yeah.
So I
As
did
always.
listen into the meeting again and to confirm my understanding, and this is what I came away with. So again, we have the October 3 meeting at which we can then absolutely confirm with the minutes also what the plan was, what the motion was.
How about we ask Clemens to just proceed consistent with that motion, whatever
Sure.
it was.
Yeah, that's, I
Consistent
think that's
with
what we're
motion,
asking
yes.
for, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you could just shoot an email to us and refresh our memory as to what the exact language of the motion was.
Can you repeat that for me, because some of you broke up?
I said Clemens should proceed consistent with the motion that we adopted at the last meeting, and perhaps he could shoot us an email and let us know what the language of that motion was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's move on then.
Before you move on, I have a question.
Yes.
It's more to Clemens. Did all of the folks that we've asked for, did they receive the same package in the same manner, so that they all have the exact identical information that they received from us and are equal in their standing of making a presentation?
Well, let me say it this way. So far, yes. The consulting firms that have submitted the proposals so far have all been given the same information, very similar information. I think what was not revealed to them was that we were contacting a number of firms and what their proposals would be. Does that answer the question?
Was that for all of them that have submitted, or all that have applied? I'm concerned about a last-minute addition, and I want to make sure that the last-minute addition does not have an advantage over the others. And if it is, then I would want an interpretation from David whether or not that is acceptable.
Didn't we, at the last meeting, Bob, didn't we agree that we wanted to allow additional firms to submit proposals?
We did.
As far as I'm concerned, we could have thousands of them bid. It doesn't matter, but I want to make sure that not 999 get one way of dealing with the data and information, and the other one has a different way of dealing with it. So I want to make absolutely sure that they are all equal, and if some of them are not, then I don't believe they should be qualified to bid.
Well, I certainly it needs to be level. I mean, that much is clear. So I think it's a fine question to ask is, is a new one getting different information than the first couple, I think it's fine to ask, but I don't know that disqualification is the only outcome if we determine that happened. So if they got substantially the same information that the first people did, I think that's the answer to the question. If it was imbalanced in any way, then let's figure that out.
Well, again, the Alta Mesa group will get the same information that all the other consulting firms received, which is basically very consolidated, that the district wants to go through a strategic planning process, a full process that at the end it results in a hard document that can be then used in the future as a yardstick of success, so to speak, and that the public be involved with more than one public meeting. So that was the basics essentially. The current firms didn't receive the benefit of seeing what the other firms are producing. So that's the only difference I can come up with, is that the Alta Mesa group can look up our packet and see what the other firms produce.
And that is a concern of mine.
Why is that, Bob?
That does not level the playing field.
Really? I mean, that's part of the board packet. Isn't that part of transparency?
It's transparency, but it's not level playing field. If for example, we'd send out a formal RFP, then everyone would arrive at once, then it would all become public record at once, and nobody has the advantage of cribbing from someone else's work.
Exactly.
I'm not arguing to disqualify these folks. I mean, that's not it. But to the question of whether or not it's a level playing field, I would, if we reach out to them, I would, if they come and present, I'm going to ask them if they read the other ones before they prepared their thing. So I will. If, I mean, you know, that's fine if they did, but I want to know it. So you might want to mention to them, you know, do your own work, and I'm sure that if these guys are any good, that they have a standard way of going about it, and they don't need anybody else's help. It looks to me like you've provided the others ample information to be used in preparing their work, so I would expect them not to need anything more than what you do.
I think we're making this much too complicated. We have the corporations. This is what go on. You know, the board and the public that's involved can decide, make the decision. And so, I think we're all set. Clemens did his best to give them all the same information. So I think that's all we can do. We can't make this more complicated than it is. So I think we should just move on.
I agree. Let's move on.
So just to restate that understanding, you're going to double check with the actual motion of last meeting, and then move forward on whichever timetable that anticipated.
Yes. Okay. New business. Review and possible action concerning solid waste services contract with Recology of the Coast.
All right, so this was actually brought up at the last meeting as well. And deferred to this meeting, we planned to approve the new agreement at the last meeting here. However, we didn't have a clean version of the contract available. So, interesting enough...
Is that a pun?
Could very well be this, that's right.
You don't have an answer.
That's very helpful. So, interesting enough, we received a request from Recology to move the contract approval to the October 3 meeting, when Recology personnel will be present to answer any questions. Of course, consider this option B of my recommendations. Option A would be to review the agreement if no further questions need to be answered by Recology, approve the resolution. Approving and authorizing execution of agreement with Recology of the Coast for solid waste and recycling services. Now, what I should just briefly also reiterate one more time is that the October 3 meeting is planned to set a new Prop 218 limit. Also planned to, so we will have two public hearings. We will have a public hearing to set the Prop 218 limit. We will also have another public hearing to revise the master fee schedule, similar to what we did today, where we open up the master fee schedule and then plan to implement the new Prop 218 limit rates. So there will be two public hearings at the next meeting. And yeah.
Okay, I have a comment. Your first line in the staff report, the district negotiated contract with service reductions.
Oh, I'm sorry, with no service reductions.
Thank you.
With no service reductions, it actually, we increased services. We now have four NO pickups instead of so far 3. We receive now the standard can is a 32-gallon can instead of a 30-gallon can. We also now receive standardized receptacles, so that is either a 20-gallon, a 32-gallon, or a 64-gallon refuse container. And in addition to that, that's the gray ones, the dark gray ones, and also new recycle containers, that's the blue ones, and they're all going to be standard 64 gallons. Any more service increases? Oil can be now picked up, I think.
Motor oil.
Yes, motor oils. Actually, Recology will deliver a container that can be utilized and then picked up. What else, Catherine, help me out? What did I forget?
I think that's the majority of it. And we've got some increased pickups at the house too.
And increase neighborhood pickups, don't we, also? For large objects.
That's what I was
That's
just
right,
saying, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me see. When are the notices going out? Oh, I see, Lou.
I'm going to question, a couple questions.
Yes.
I had a chance to read through this. First of all, I understand we're going to get one container for trash, whatever
Size you
right.
choose.
And two containers, two 64-gallon containers, one for recyclable and one for green waste.
No. Only one for recycling. The
Okay.
old system, the green waste system stays in place, essentially. Nothing changes.
Save your old
Old
containers
containers.
for green waste.
Okay, that's what I was confused about. And, okay, now with the recyclables, what about when you, and in my case, there's some materials I shred, and maybe 3 times a year I'll have a big bag of shredded paper. Now, they don't want me to throw that in the,
Loose.
huh?
That's a good question. As a non-shredder, I did not ask.
I don't think that there is a problem putting that in, but there will be an information sheet. First, we're working on an information sheet with Recology right now. It will be sent out before the new cards go out. And in addition to that, there will be actually an information sheet taped to the actual containers when they're delivered that specifies exactly what goes in which container. And I think everybody should really take a close look at that, because we now implement single stream recycling. So it's much more than just your glass and paper and aluminum cans. It's pretty much any packaging, any wrapping, anything but food scraps, green waste.
Then the question comes, what if you have more than 64 gallons delivered?
Be nice to your neighbor.
Well,
Story
if
for
you have
another.
more than 64 gallon, there's several options. First one is you can always drop it off at the.
Oh, you can?
You can drop it off at the center in Pacifica with Recology. And another option is also to have a special bulk goods pickup.
It was under my understanding when they took over, they canceled, they closed the yard, so they now opened it up again.
No, the yard's
It
not
is open.
closed. I've been there a couple of times recently to take large styrofoam. But they don't take peanuts. If anybody knows who does take peanuts, I'd love to know. Got a few bags, and they said, take it down to the packing place, the shipping place.
Right.
And the shipping place that they sent me to said, no, we don't. And they sent me to another place that does, and like, no, they don't either. So
So what has changed there was
Peanuts, huh?
that
No peanuts.
green waste cannot be dropped off anymore at the center. That's a change in county regulations that required them to stop taking green waste at the recycling center.
We keep our green waste cans.
Recycled
Yes.
materials include shredded paper.
if, I believe there was something that Chris said last time about if you have a large amount of green waste, to call and talk to them, they may be able to accommodate that.
Yes.
Yeah. So the notices have not yet gone out. We need to make sure they answer Lou's question about shredded paper, because I know a lot of people use shredders in this district. And Chris was able to order the waste and recycling containers for delivery for the first week in October.
Yes.
Yeah.
She confirmed that the containers were ordered.
So when are the notices to the public going to go out? We need to make very clear, because Lou is not the only person I have talked to who was unsure about what the green waste container situation was. And just to the public, we had the opportunity to have every other week recycling and green waste every week in their 64-gallon or 2 64-gallon containers, and you could put food waste in it, but we were going to be paying even more for the containers. Essentially, the containers will be leased by the household from Recology, and they actually go with the address, not, if you move, you leave the containers there. And so we're paying a lease fee. These containers are $100 or more each. They will improve the service, the speed of the service and the efficiency and the comp costs and so on. So we get better service. Raccoons will have more difficulty going through them. And also, I have heard recently of people going through recycling and filching out the CRV containers. And I know in Pacifica that was a real problem. So this will, with 64-gallon containers and most of the recycling at the bottom, will probably slow that problem down too and result in more efficient use of the CRV for Recology as well as for the ratepayers, because that does get calculated in.
Well, maybe real quick, one advantage that came to my attention this week, actually, that probably all the other avid bikers and maybe the dog walkers and parents will appreciate. I saw that there is actually, if you put your recycling out nowadays, there's broken glass. It just happens. You put it out there and glass breaks. And I've seen this actually this week in front of my house. And that's something that hopefully we will see much less in the future. So.
Good. Good. So, gentlemen, do we want to approve this tonight, or do we want to wait for Chris to come? Do we have more questions?
Last time we had the issue that not all the appendices were there. That was one of the things.
That was one of the problems.
Or the exhibits. Now, there are 2 exhibits that have text about how they're going to be filled in. Exhibit F is to have a schedule for a 15-month rate. since all of that's described in detail elsewhere, I'm not worried about that, I want to mention it. And then Exhibit D was initial maximum rates as of effective date. Both of those are contingent on when this gets approved, so
Yes.
I just wanted to mention it. I want to make sure staff is aware and okay with that. Other than that, I have no questions about the exhibits.
We also have actually an attachment to the packet that was prepared by Director Potasic, who asked at the last meeting that this be
It's the
added
front
in
page.
some form, and if I sent this to you, that, I don't know what your idea is, that if we include this in the minutes, or if we can somehow attach it to the contract.
I would like to suggest it's attached to the contract, either as an appendix or as the back page of one of the appendices that's relevant.
Noted as an exhibit.
Yeah, because I think that's what's going to be usable to figure out what the rate structure will be rather than the paragraph, the verbiage.
So we should make it Exhibit H.
We might be able to fit it in as an appendix or an attachment to Exhibit E, which is the one that has all the
Rate
calculations
adjustment.
in it,
There you go.
which is very complex to the layperson.
There are folks in the future that are going to thank me for that piece of paper.
No, it's the layperson, including lawyers. I mean,
For the audience, we have 12 pages in the rate adjustment methodology.
yeah, I think we just make that page 13.
Okay. Okay, do we
So
have,
with that, I would move resolution next in order, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of agreement with Ecology of the Coast for solid waste and recycling services, with the page entitled Total Cost of Operation Prior Year equals summary of A plus B plus C plus D to be added as page 13 of the rate adjustment methodology section.
Can I second from the room?
Dave, can he second?
He's at the meeting.
Yes, oh, sorry,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
so motion by Scott, second by Bob.
Okay. I didn't know if I could by conference.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter?
Aye.
Director Thorlock?
Aye.
Director Potasic?
Aye.
And tell Chris she can thank us for getting a free evening, but she's always welcome to attend our meeting. Okay, moving right along then. Review and possible action concerning well conversion finances.
All right, well, this item was requested to be on the agenda by President Slater-Carter. The large utility companies previously in charge of the water system in Montara and Moss Beach failed to manage the resources adequately, and that resulted then in the moratorium on new connections. That was first voluntary in place and repealed, and then it essentially was mandated by the California Public Utilities Commission in 1984. And subsequently, the San Mateo County Health Department started to issue well permits inside urban rural zone areas to allow new construction. For more than 30 years, all new development in Montara Moss Beach was built with on private domestic water wells, permitted by the San Mateo County Health Department. And this board has a long history of highlighting the detrimental effects to the local aquifers due to high concentration of private wells in the urban rural zones. There's a number of things that are very concerning about a lot of wells close together. The mid-coast side is the only area in California where a large number of private wells in the urban rural zone exist. Long-standing moratorium on new connections was repealed by this board 2 years ago, Currently, connections are not processed by the planning agencies, San Mateo County and the California Coastal Commission until the district's public works plan has been amended to reflect the new water supply situation. According to coastal staff, the amendment will be brought to the commission very soon. We requested that it be heard on the October agenda. We have no confirmation from Coastal Commission for this at this time. A connection for new construction or well conversion currently costs $14,500. So we're now looking at what does it actually cost to convert to the system. I think we're fairly average actually on the peninsula. For example, CCWD charges $15,169, fairly similar charge for a new connection. There's an associated construction cost, other costs that bring this actually realistically to about $20,000 to get a domestic connection with MWSD. And in anticipation of issuing new connections for the new constructions as well as the well conversions, President Slater Carter would like to discuss the possibility to increase the incentive for existing homes that are currently served by wells to voluntarily connect to the public water supply. So, this is for board information and discussion.
Just for some background, I had been working on this idea with Paul as trying to find a way to finance it. The concern is that we don't want to be in second place in some kind of mortgage default situation or tax default situation. And I believe what that leaves us with is some form of tax. The Coastside Fire Protection District uses a Melrose financing, and they create a new little Melrose district for everyone they bring into this. And I'd like a go-ahead from the board actually to go down and talk to the Coastside Fire Protection District, make this official. I've had a number of people ask me this over the years, and as we're getting close to having the Coastal Commission and the county finally acknowledge what's going on, we sent them all of our information, and we just got a note for the September meeting. No, we need a few more pieces of information for your application to be considered complete. It's like they've been dribbling out everything they want 1 month, 2 months, 6 months at a time, instead of just giving us a list. It's like every time we give them some information, it generates more questions, and this has been going on for years. And get off my horse right now because they couldn't quite understand that we actually had a good improvement in our water supply by fixing leaks and conservation. They couldn't figure out how that increased your water supply. And Tanya has spent a lot of time working directly with the Coastal Commission trying to teach them about water engineering. Anyway, I would like to say that I'd like to be able to go to the Coastside Fire Protection District, and it may be after reading the Melrose Act, which was from 1982, that we might need to get a special amendment to it at the state level so we can use it for this particular situation. And we may need to work towards that. Do I see a question? No?
How would that help the homeowner?
It would allow them to pay it as a tax over time instead of in a lump sum.
Okay. The connection fees.
The connection fees.
And we would receive it.
And we would receive it.
Through the tax roll then.
Yeah.
Right?
Over time.
Over time.
So your concern is that if we didn't have that legal protection or structure, that when the property was transferred, we might have some difficulty perfecting our claim on what was unpaid?
Exactly.
and it's impossible for us to secure that
I think,
as a lien?
I think we could secure it as a lien, but we'd end up running up legal costs and time. And this is something that has been used a lot since 1982. And the reason, I think it is more beneficial for us to find a way to structure it so that people who are in our district can easily connect. We've got a lot of retirees and young families who are in these big, expensive new houses that are on wells.
I completely support you getting more information on that.
Yeah, I wasn't initially predisposed to thinking much about it, but you know what, let's know. Let's
Yeah.
know and then compare. I mean, we've talked about, certainly, we've been talking for years about doing a secured note, a secured lien, and, you know, we do have the ability to put things on the tax rolls when we, like, for example, unpaid trash bills.
Right.
We can put those on the tax roll. So we have some methods, but it'd be good to know about one more and before we act on this. And I'm glad to hear you talking about it like this, because there are a lot of people who want to make that transition,
Yes.
but it's a lot to bite off, and, you know, you can do it with your, you know, lump sum through your own bank, but, you know, the mortgage lender may not be the one you want to work with on this. Maybe you do, but if we can offer a mechanism to help people make this transition, we're looking for whatever is the most attractive way to make this happen.
Exactly.
We had a lot of people saying, are you going to force us? And we're like, no, we're going to try to make it as attractive as possible to get it to where you don't have to be a water system operator to have good, safe water for your home and for your children. If, you know, so we're doing this on, you know, for a reason, and so I like this idea.
Well, the business case is we get more users.
Yeah, and it's more equitable.
Exactly.
So one condition that we may want to consider is that if we provide this kind of a mechanism, that they are required to abandon the well.
That's not something, I will check that out. Under state law, the only people who can require the abandonment of a well, and Dave and I can talk to it, is the
Yeah.
county.
Well, we're not requiring it, we're saying it's a condition if they want this other.
Well, not only
Benefit,
the
right.
abandonment, but the generally accepted engineering way of decommissioning and destroying the well.
Right.
Fill it with bentonite and all that.
Yeah, so another thought that particularly for people in the last, say, 5 years that have at least the more recent home builders have gone into it understanding that they need to connect, they're required to connect when a connection is made available. I'd like to see an incentive for those folks as well, and just throw this open for discussion, that if someone has put in a well, say in the last 5 years, that maybe there's a reduction in the fee if they agree to abandon that well. So,
Well,
if
that's-
it was within the first year, maybe we give them 80%. If it's within 2 years, we, 80% of what their documented costs were, direct costs for the well, not permits, the actual drilling costs, if they agree on their nickel to decommission that well in a way where it's permanent.
Right.
But, you know, if it's more than 5 years out, they've had a significant period of use of the well, and I'd be less inclined to give them a credit.
This is going to be a interesting discussion. One of the things that I would like to be able to figure out, and we've got to work with Dave and the accountants and everyone, is when we were asking people to vote for the bond, I promised the public that one of the things I would explore is that for people who had been on the bond the longest, maybe they paid into the purchase of the water district, and generally these are the newer, more expensive houses, so the folks who have been on the bond, who have been in the older houses built in the 70s or the 50s, their Prop 13 appraisals or tax assessments are much lower than these new houses. And so they've paid significantly more into the bond than the other folks. And I'd like to find a way to give some kind of relief for that as well. Now, the brand new houses, we started, this board decided, I think it was in 2004, I'm not good with years, that in order to get a sewer permit for a new house, you had to sign acknowledgement, and it was a deed restriction, that, so it passed with the house, and it's in the paperwork when the house was sold, that you had to connect to the system when water was available. And I did that, we did that, because the county had made it a condition of a building permit, but that never gets passed on to the new owners. And so we wanted new owners to be very aware of the fact that they were going to be required to connect to the system when we had water available, and it was, if nothing else, a promise that we would be ending this moratorium, that it was not going to go on forever, that people would have a good quality urban water system to match their good quality urban sewer system. But again, I'd like to find ways to explore this. We are as Clement said, we're the only community in California that has this high a density of wells this close together. And in 2002 or 3, when I was making a lot of trips to the state looking for money and assistance from the state for us, I talked to the Department of Health Services, who said the county was in charge of that, and they thought this was an incipient disaster because there were so many wells so close together. And they said they'd never heard of anything, but they couldn't do anything. The only one who has any recourse over wells is the county. So, Clement, you had one more comment. I hope you can remember it.
What I wanted to say, when you were talking about the process with the California Coastal Commission, that in the conversations that I just had this week with staff, Coastal Commission staff, that they are letting us know that we are very close and that we are very much on the same page with coastal staff. So this goes back to the issue of when can we issue connections. No, there has not been a commitment made. We don't have an approved amendment. However, it really sounds just very positive what we hear from coastal.
Good, good.
Oh, I have a comment at the end of this. If you
Make your comment. We're at the end.
Well, while I support finding ways to convert folks over, two items that concern me is I'd like to know more about the impact of the mellow roofs, because I do remember some years in the past driving through developments where they had huge signs that said no mellow roofs. It had a negative connotation. And it may have been just for that particular part, but I'd sort of like to make sure that there isn't a hidden landmine in the mellow roofs for the district or other owners. The other thing is for conversions. While we need to get them converted, I am sympathetic to the cost of someone having put the expense of putting a well in. Now, they can't be connected to our system for cross-contamination and all of that, but is there a way that we could allow them to convert that to an ag well so they could use it for the watering outside?
I will be happy to investigate that.
Thank you.
I will say the internet is replete with diatribes against mellow roofs. I think in this instance, I'd like to see it used like they do for the Coastside Fire Protection District, and that is where it's voluntary by that particular property owner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not either for it or against it. I think I'd like to understand, and we probably need Dave's interpretation and making sure we cross the T's and dotted the I's.
Good, well, we'll work on that. Okay, this is gonna be not a 2-week process, I can guarantee it.
Okay.
Good. Review and possible action concerning filing notice of completion for 2012-2013 sewer improvement project.
We had a fairly large sewer improvement project this year, as well as last year. So in the recent 3 years, we really were able to get a lot of work done in the sewer system. And that was mainly pipe replacements. We have now a letter from the district engineer that indicates that the work has been successfully been completed. And they recommend a notice of completion be filed with the county recorder. And that means that after the expiration of a 35 lien period, the 5% retention will be paid to the contractor. Remember, it was 10%, but since this is now the second year that we have this lowered to 5%, it was around $40,000, I believe, the project, so $20-some thousand, I believe, that we will withhold for a little bit here. So the recommendation is to authorize the general manager to file the attached notice of completion with the county recorder.
Okay, do we have discussion? Oh, would you like to tell the public some of the scope of the work that was done? Because it was pretty impressive. We were able to, within what we had budgeted, increase the scope of work because the costs were so much lower than we had anticipated due to the recession.
Right, and we were able to do that in a much larger scale in the previous year, where we really mobilized much more. This year, we focused a very large portion of the project was on George Street, between Audubon and Birch, I believe, somewhere up there. That whole section. And that was a very expensive project because it was not a pipe bursting section. This was an open trench. It had very little grade in it, and so it required a grade adjustment. So we had to lay new pipe, and I'm sure most folks have seen the construction go on for quite some time. We did a number of improvements in Moss Beach. For example, one very important one that wasn't visible to the public so much was behind that is on Nevada Street, the sewer line on Nevada Street. That was a section that runs from the church parking lot towards Nevada Street, and it's actually a creek crossing. And so it was a big concern for us, and we were able to get that repaired and renewed. So that was another big headache that we got rid of. And then a number of spot repairs also of the system and smaller sections.
Good. Do we have a motion?
I authorize the general manager to file with the attached notice of completion with the county recorder.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter?
Aye.
Director Zola?
Aye.
Director Pasek?
Aye.
Okay, next item, review and possible action concerning purchase of a district office copier.
So we have we had a copy machine that was about 9 years old, and according to the manufacturer of that very machine, they last 5 to 7 years. Well, we got 9 years out of it, and we noticed it in the past 2 years. The service calls increased. Quite frankly, I think the service calls were above average since about 5 years. So, I mean, we were still able to keep this running and keep this going. But I mean, we were in the past 2 years, these guys were out pretty much 2-3 times a month. So they also informed us that, you know, this model runs out. They were actually really helpful, I have to say, in taking other old machines apart, and we were getting a lot out of their service. They were very Yeah, they've really worked with with us together. In any case, they at one point they weren't able to find replacement parts, and that was now in August. We knew since quite some time that we needed a new machine in August. It essentially gave up. No new parts were available. And we now work with a temporary replacement that was issued by Toshiba, actually, who's manufactured the current machine. So we contacted a number of manufacturers and asked for proposals for a similar machine. And what we're looking for is, of course, we want a durable machine. We want it to be user-friendly so that any staff can access it. And hopefully that is nowadays a given, but quite frankly, I have to say I once in a while have to work with copy machines in other offices, and I have with some models I have a hard time, I have to say. We want double-sided scanning capabilities. We wanted duplex copy capabilities. We wanted to see that they can produce larger documents. We wanted wireless access functions so that board members can print something out from the boardroom, 500 sheet capacity. We wanted to be able to reduce and enlarge, and book type printing capabilities. And we received proposals from 4 companies for copiers with the requested functions. And we put a spreadsheet together that summarizes the main features of the different machines and compares the cost for purchase and lease, summarizes the maintenance and other associated costs. Well, that all boils down to the recommendation to authorize the general manager to issue a purchase order in the amount of not to exceed $7,300 for the purchase of the Kyocera Task Alpha 3050CL.
Now, where's that machine made? Or where's it from?
There's material attached. Good question.
I just trying to. I don't recognize the name.
Kyocera?
Kyocera?
It's around.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's old.
It's a multinational electronics and ceramics manufacturer headquartered in Kyiv.
So it's been around. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the offer for the Kyocera expired 6/31.
No, it's still valid.
Okay. I like the Kyocera. I like the fact that it is dustless.
That's another thing that we actually asked for specifically, that the machine should actually have employee-friendly particle-free toner. This was the only one that was able to offer that. So it's not only financially the best option, but that was one point that was important to us, and they were able to provide it. So an added benefit.
Dustless.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? Do we have a motion to authorize?
I'd so move.
A second.
Chris, Scott, roll call, please.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Harvey?
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter?
Aye.
Director Dolov?
Aye.
Director Potasek?
Aye.
And tell them to keep spare parts, to keep a couple cadavers, because we're gonna run this one for another 10 years too. I think we got our money's worth out of the last one. I remember in what bad shape the one just before that was.
I think Paul Perkenbeck ran that one, took him to the ground.
Review and possible upgrade concerning accounting software upgrade.
So, number of points here. First of all, this should be review and possible upgrade concerning billing software. So, we made a mistake agendizing it as accounting software. The other issue is that we've actually started renegotiating. We've renegotiated with companies in the past month, and we actually started focusing on this in the past 2 weeks and saw some different advantages come up, and started renegotiating with some of the companies, and that's why we suggest to move this item to the October 3 meeting and then agendize it properly.
Thank you. Next, review and possible action concerning Association of California Water Agencies, that's ACWA, committee appointment nominations.
So, they're asking for committee appointment nominations for the 2014-15 term. We have Director Potasnik serve on the Groundwater Committee, Legal Counsel Schricker served on the Legal Affairs Committee. I served on the Groundwater Committee, and Director Boyd served on the Water Management Committee. So let's discuss next year's Aqua Committee involvement, authorize and direct the General Manager to submit the recommendation to the Association of California Water Agencies.
Clement, at the last Aqua Board meeting, I had told them that I really am having trouble making the groundwater meeting, and so I told them that I wouldn't be able to serve on that next year.
I would like to continue to serve on the Groundwater Committee with Aqua.
Actually, makes more sense for you anyway, so.
Good. Scott, do you want to work on the Water Management Committee?
Yep.
Okay. Dave?
Yes, please.
Okay. And if you need an alternate for the Groundwater Committee, that's something I do know something about, so. I would-
don't think it's alternates. It's you either show up or you excuse yourself.
Okay, and where are the meetings held?
Many are
Well-
on teleconference.
Well, actually,
Some, well,
some
That
are.
was part of the problem, Kevin, is that they were not as convenient to get to, and they were not always in the same place, and,
Right. I think the most convenient place is Sacramento.
yeah, but they weren't always there, so.
And
You can show up at a meeting, there's no guard at the door.
Oh, okay. Let's just make it a point to, maybe on our website or somewhere or I guess we can just go to the Aqua website and find out when these committees are meeting, so never mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we have Dave on the Legal Committee, Scott on the Water Management Committee, and Clement on the Groundwater Committee. Jim?
I think that I'm,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
we should wait. You people will be here next year for sure.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Reports.
There hasn't been a SAM meeting since the last meeting. There's one coming up this Monday.
Okay.
Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side.
Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. At the last Mid-Coast Community Council meeting, Neil
Are
Merrilees.
we moving away from director's reports?
Director's reports are down in number 7.
Wait.
Thank you. We want to give you lots of time.
No, I don't need much time.
Okay. Neil Merrilees brought up the fact that Montara Water and Sanitary District had been not what were his words? Now I've forgotten the exact thing. He was very negative about our involvement with the park and trying to get a sewer and water system for their bathroom. And I had gone through the files earlier and pointed out that the meter was removed due to the fact that there had been a years-long leak, and notice had been given to the park management. Unfortunately, the chair at the MCC allowed Neil 2 opportunities to speak, and I got sort of sandwiched in the middle, and I was very annoyed. that I didn't get to rebut his final comment or even answer it. So I've gone back through the files, and indeed, one of the things I had forgotten was that the drinking fountain had been donated in 1988 by Citizens Utilities. And when we took over the water system, we had left it and we're not billing them for any water. When the park was upgraded dramatically, I think that was in '05, they had disconnected the water fountain and put in a hose bib. And that started leaking, and the leaks went on for years. And I asked Clemens about it. His name shows up in the files. And in fact, our policy was to call the head of the park and say, you're leaking. Can you guys do anything about it? And our guys were the ones who ended up fixing it or shutting it off. And they never did reestablish it as a drinking fountain. It was always as a hose bib. So they came to us in '09 about a flushable toilet and increasing their water usage, and this board did pass the resolution to give them a water and sewer connection, and nothing's happened since then.
I would, if I could, note that they came to us, if I recall correctly, I looked through the minutes at our last meeting, and I believe they came to us with a presentation about the history of the property. I believe that was in May, and I believe it was in
June.
Late June. We passed the resolution making a provision for a water connection. Now, at the time, there was a lot of storm and drang about how we were putting up a lot of resistance and we were doing them wrong, and we said repeatedly, look, we're looking for a way to be of help here, but we're not going to simply gift public funds for this. So we did a lot of research. We came up with a solid basis, which we put into the resolution. We passed the resolution, and in retrospect, it was a matter of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was really it didn't take a long time. It took a long time from when they first had the notion that they ought to get themselves a proper water connection. But it didn't take a long time from when it was brought to us as a specific request, and then we did the legwork, and Paul and I spent a fair bit of time digging through files and looking for ways that it could be supported, and we did it in pretty short order. So I know that the people at the time felt the frustration of hearing no. What they didn't understand was that it was no with a desire and a commitment to find a way, and we did. So selective memory is not particularly helpful on this one, because even I didn't remember. I thought it had taken a very long time, and just reading through the minutes, it was like, oh yeah, that was like 2 months.
Well, it was also interesting, Scott, that we got an email from one of the park proponents wanting us to go back through our sewer records to the 1970s to find out when the school had burned down. And I don't even know if we have those kinds of records back 40, 50 years.
But I will tell you that Paul...
And they wanted us to have all of the records from Citizens Utilities. They had forgotten that we had taken over in 2003, and maybe they had not been informed that Citizens Utilities took all of their records with them.
So, despite that, that's funny, I didn't know about that, but despite that, Paul did a fair bit of that research on his own, and I did some of my own research. Office staff helped a little bit. That was something that, frankly, any citizen could have come and helped with. I'm glad to find out that somebody wanted that. I would be happy to work with someone who has that kind of initiative to come lend a hand. I think that'd be great.
If I just may interject, and there was one fact that I think I want to bring to all your memory, that essentially what we did at the time was we authorized the television televisioning of the sewer line.
Mhm.
So the district actually spent some funds, went out there and looked at the sewer line, and that's when we actually detected
The
the
old-
existence of a lateral. So that was then
So,
the
be-
trigger point.
between-
It was a whole set of actions, but by the time that happened, we had done enough research to know that if that bore fruit, then we'd have a solution.
So that was in 2009, right?
that
Yes,
was in
we
09.
received that in April. We received, we were, actually, I contacted the group, and then we received a written request on April 22nd, we just went through the file. And we agendized it on the first May meeting for the first time, where the group presented their request, and then in the June meeting, I believe it might have been the second one in June, the resolution was passed, and in between it was discussed and agendized.
So, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to share my information, so we can, I think it's very important to deal in facts and not memory and hearsay. Aqua Board of Directors report, Bob?
Nothing.
CSDA, nothing to report. Integrated Regional Water Management
Nothing.
Plan, Attorney's report.
Madam President, you had, Board approved my attendance at the legal conference, which is being held, would have been held over, or is to be held. Actually, Thursday and Friday of next first week of the month, which would have conflicted with your board meeting. Actually, for a personal reason, I'm not going to be able to attend that, so I will be here for the board meeting at the beginning of October.
Okay. Directors reports. Chris?
So I've been communicating with other candidates in the election who've been requesting financial information. And I'm inclined to give it to them, and I also think I should just present it to you guys. Two things I worked on. One was Clemens and I had put together mostly me, but Clemens gave me feedback about Montara, a comparison of finances for coastside water districts, North Coast, CCWD, and Montara. And I did that maybe May, June, using 2012, 13 numbers. I've updated the numbers for CCWD and Montara, and I want to give those to you. I'm going to give them to candidates, and I'm happy to respond to questions, and I'd appreciate, Clemens, you're taking a look at it and making sure that the numbers are accurate. It puts out to the current budget. And the intention of this is to put some objective numbers behind what the differences are between the districts. And frankly, I think the differences in terms of operating costs are modest. I think this district does a good job of controlling expenses. We're a victim of our scale. But I think generally the finances, what I'm seeing is that they're run responsibly and well. And I think having those things out there that people can look at and understand what are the differences, where are the differences, and talk about why there are differences is part of the process that ought to be going on here. The second document is a compilation of what the legal fees have been over the last 5 years. And I've gotten those from the actuals for the last 2 years, and one of the documents that Clemens and I worked on with the prior year budget, which is about 15 months ago, had historical numbers. So I'd ask Clemens that you look at those and make sure that those are accurate. I haven't gone to Mays and asked them to give me what the historicals are per QuickBooks, but that would be a good thing to validate. And again, this is about transparency to me. If there are candidates or any member of the public that wants information about what our expenditures are, I think they're entitled to them, other than things that we have under closed session. And frankly, I think that they reflect well on the district. the finances. I mean, when you look at the scale that we operate compared to North Coast, I think that we do a good job of controlling costs. And both of those districts this year had I think it was 7.4% increase. North Coast 7% at CCWD. We have a 4%. I think having specific numbers out there that people can look at so they understand what the trade-offs are between independence and maintaining this district as a independent entity is important. And you know, Catherine, you discussed your belief that people in this district are prepared to pay more for that independence, that's important to them. I don't contest that. I don't have the experience that you have over years of talking to these folks. But I think getting numbers out there is a good way for us to engage in that conversation, because there's real value to being independent. There's real value to independence in terms of decision-making and local control. The trade-off is there are economies of scale that we can't achieve. I've tried in the year that I've been here to propose that there's a middle course that we could chart, and that is cooperate. That there may be ways for us to stay independent and to cooperate in terms of capital projects or operations or administration in a way that we get some benefit out of doing things the way other people do them. And I think it's really important that we look at how we do that. I think it's important fiduciary responsibility that we bear to find ways to minimize costs and at the same time address the needs for local control and independence. So these, I'm happy to respond to questions. I've got enough copies for the public. I'm going to send, Bob, I'm going to send this to you electronically. I'll send it to everyone electronically.
Well, Chris, thank you for your hard work on this.
So the first sheet is CCWD and Montara, and there's some notes about the items if there's something that needs clarification. But again, I'm happy to go into that in more detail or respond to questions. And Bob, I just sent that to you electronically. Here's the sheet on legal expenses.
Thank you.
And again, Clemens, I really appreciate your having Mays validate those numbers, because what I got them from was a budget worksheet. And so I don't have access to the source documents. And that's it for my report.
Thank you. Any other directors' reports? Hearing none, general manager's report.
I actually do have something to report, a follow-up to an item that was up at the last meeting, was the web page was discussed, and I did a little research on my own and found actually a consultant that has some interesting history working for some county politicians, actually. For example, Hill was one of them. And so she offered actually her services so cheap that I engaged her. That is $400 for a webpage revamp, and then keeping it updated for $150 a month. And this is a month-to-month agreement, so I think we can give it a go and work with her together and see what she produces. It's so cheap that I think we don't run much of a risk here, and she comes with very good recommendations. So just letting you folks know that hopefully we'll see some changes and Scott, we have to talk to them and get access to that and implement that. And maybe see some of your ideas involved in that as well.
Good.
Future
There
agendas?
is, there is also an offer from her that is also very cheap to engage in social services that I think.
Social media.
Excuse me, social
We
social-
do need psychiatric services, maybe social services, I'm not so sure, but
I'm not sure it's so cheap for us here, but the social media services are fairly cheap, and I think I want to see this confirmed by the directors at another meeting. Might bring this up at the end of the discussion if this can benefit us or not. I actually think, why not? We're going to produce actually some information. We can send it out through a number of channels.
I would like to open up a Twitter kind of thing for this district, for emergency notices, construction notices, those kinds of things, not a social back and forth. So we should find out if that can be done, just as a way of keeping people informed about what's going on. Water main break on Main Street, we're gonna be without water for 6 weeks, that kind of thing.
That's not gonna happen.
No, that's not gonna happen, that's why I chose something absolutely extreme. But for folks who are, if you live on 7th Street, for the next 2 weeks, we might be replacing the sewer main.
Right.
No, there's long been a number of things that would be great if we could have additional info for what's up. And when you see that stuff happening, what does it mean, and how long is it gonna be there, and are they gonna get to my street, those kind of things.
I was impressed by Tony's Facebook page for Sam. They have some great photos there, and I was jealous, actually. So I think, I would like to see that as a future agenda
Urging
item.
Clemens to become the photo buff that Tony is, because that's a pretty high bar.
No, but maybe we can just get Tony to contribute photos. I'm glad to see, I hope Tony is moving towards photographs and away from motorcycles.
He
Mine.
has all sorts of fun, expensive
Okay,
pursuits.
future agenda items we've covered, let's adjourn, thank you. Thank you for all your work on this, Chris.